I'm here in my wife's office right now. So if you see some like therapeutic type things, that's what this is from. Hey everybody, Brett from Love Bats and the Belfry back for another video here. Wanted to talk about Jaws. This 4th of July just happened recently, and funny thing is Kelly and I's dating anniversary is on July 1st, and due to our love for this movie, we decided, 4th of July is coming up, and this is a perfect time to watch the original Jaws. And kind of wanted to just do a video about talking about the VHS, at least watching it. And this is now my second time watching it on VHS, and it was a cool little throwback of just the VHS quality. And just wanting to talk, a little bit about this and at least give my review on it. And, this movie holds a special place in our hearts. We went to an event like nearby in Frederick, Maryland. They were doing an outdoor screening of Jaws, and so we got to see that, which was pretty cool. Very uncomfortable experience just because there were so many people around. There was like no room to sit whatsoever. You basically couldn't get up out of your chair without stepping on someone's hand. But that's besides the point. But yeah, the VHS I have of Jaws here, it's funny, I actually got this from a previous job. I had worked doing like hoarding cleanup and crime scene cleanup. This is a little fun fact. So I didn't do it very long because it's very physically taxing, and I'm a broken old man at this point. So, but I actually found this at one of the houses we were cleaning out, and there was a number of VHS tapes there. I think there was like one of Earth Girls Are Easy, one of, actually the 3 Evil Dead movies were there as well on VHS. So like, to me, that was the jackpot. But yeah, this Jaws was one of them. And if you notice that this Jaws, it's a pretty big case. And the reason for that, it's actually 2 tapes in here. And it's funny, when you see these tapes, it'll say Jaws Part 1 and then Jaws Part 2 on them. And at first I'm just like thinking to myself, I'm like, is there a cut of this movie that's just like extremely long? And then they had to just cut it way down to typical 2 hours. And that's not the case here. This was because the first tape is just the movie, obviously. And Part 2 is actually like, it's pretty much like 75 minutes of bonus features just on the second tape. And I haven't gotten around to watching the bonus features, but this is one of those movies where it's so fascinating on how they got the shark to work, and like, despite how minimalist they show the shark, how real it looks and how well it still looks to this day. I would say, to me, this worked out in their favor by being very minimalist with the shark. And I know that there was apparently a lot of like crazy issues with production on making this movie, but hey, it works, and it's obviously, it worked well out for Steven Spielberg and the cast alike. I mean, it says, it's one of the most like highest grossing movies of all time, and like, this is basically what kicked off like the summer blockbuster, and like what movies became known as blockbusters if it was going to be huge, and everyone went and saw it. And nowadays with movie theaters, it's once in a blue moon that a movie is so successful that it stays a long time in the movie theater. Honestly, I think the last one to do that was probably Top Gun Maverick, because that's definitely one of those movies where definitely go watch it in the theater because it's meant to be seen on a big screen. And honestly, there's a lot of movies now that are coming out where they're either meant to watch at home, or a lot of movies that are just like, they want it to be on a big screen. A lot of times, not a lot of people go out to see it. So definitely very different times compared to back then with movies. But Jaws was basically the first thing that kicked it off. That was like, it was bigger than, Jesus, basically. And this, to this day, with how many remakes and reboots there are, I do not want them to do anything to do with another sequel, a soft reboot, or just a reboot of this movie. It's just the dumbest thing you could ever possibly try to do. Like, I mean, there's there's movies that are coming out nowadays that I am shocked that they are still trying to do a remake of. Like, apparently there's an Exorcist remake that's coming out, and I'm like, why? Like, the original Exorcist, it's like, yeah, there's certain aspects of that movie that haven't dated the best, but that's like a movie that's over 50 plus years old and still looks good. So, like, that's a pretty big testament to how good the movie is. And I'm personally just a fan of older like type stuff anyways, because it's just a very different style of filmmaking and ways that people go about making things compared to nowadays. And I'm not trying to knock on things nowadays, because like I'm all for certain things, and I think there's certain things that you can't really make the same way that you did back then. I don't know. I just feel like, the times that are with certain things and how we do things now, it'd be really weird to just go back to doing things a certain way. But that's besides the point. I mean, Jaws looks great on VHS. I mean, I personally, like, a lot of people talk about this movie, not in crazy detail though, because it is a very simple movie. Just a, small town of Amity is, it's their 4th of July weekend coming up. People are out of towners are coming in to want to go to the beach, and there's a shark attack, in the beginning of the movie. Like, basically this drunk girl and guy are just like running on the beach. The girl goes swimming. The guy gets to get like undressed to go swimming. He basically just falls asleep like on the sand because he's so drunk. And the one girl who goes swimming ends up getting eaten and, gets killed. And then, Chief Brody, played by Roy Scheider, is the main character. He's just this small police chief in this tiny little town. And, normally he knows everybody, but then you have all these out-of-towners coming in for 4th of July, and he's not really sure, like, because of the shark attack, he's like really worried about everything that's going to go on, and basically just full of anxiety. And like this, like, I never really thought about it, but this movie really captures like someone having really terrible anxiety about something and feeling that something terrible is going to happen, which obviously it eventually ends up happening to somebody. But that's something I really like. This, like, the main character, despite him, he seems like he's afraid of a lot of stuff, and he doesn't like the water. And I even like, there's one part of the movie where one of the characters asks him, he's just like, it's like a cop who doesn't like to go in the water, lives on an island. It doesn't look like an island when you're living on it. But it's just, I love the story of, Chief Brody. You have the marine biologist. I think his name is Martin. I can never remember his name, that comes into town to investigate the shark attack. And like, all these locals go out and end up capturing the shark in the beginning of the movie, thinking that's the one that ends up killing this one local lady's son, who's, mourning the death of her son from the shark attack. And the marine biologist is like, no, like, the length of, its mouth, and, there's no way this shark would have eaten the one kid. And they even go and dissect him at a certain point and do like this autopsy, and it's like he's like pulling all this stuff out. It's like there's like tin cans and like even a license plate he like pulls out of the shark. And so, I mean, it's just such a simple premise. It's just like, a shark attack happens, then a second shark attack happens, and then 4th of July, the mayor is just, he's so crazy about being like, oh, we're gonna make a lot of money this weekend if people end up coming out. We can't close the beach. And then, of course, another attack happens, during the 4th of July. And, everyone's in an uproar about it. And then you have the character of Quint, who ends up coming on screen, who like puts his nails up against the chalkboard to get everyone's attention. He's like, I'll capture this beast for you. And like, he said he'll do it for $10,000, to bring back the entire thing. And I just like how it's a combination of just like, Chief Brody, the marine biologist, and Quint, just this local fisherman guy, just going out just to find this shark, just to get rid of it. And, how it's like, well, our island is its food source now at this point that's going to keep coming back. And I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of sharks. I do love sharks as, a mammal, but like there's certain aspects, like I know this definitely goes into like the sequels and stuff, especially Jaws 4, which I want to review at some point. Like it's just so ridiculous because that movie, it's like trying to say that this one particular shark is like targeting like the Brody family or whatever, and it just doesn't make any sense because it's like sharks don't actually target people. It's just they think of it as a sense of food, and shark attacks are very few and far between. But this was the movie that made people afraid to go in the water, and so I mean, and that's I'm afraid to go in the water sometimes too because I feel like not to victimize myself, but there's times where I'm like, you know what? That would be the one thing that happens to me is like, I'm not provoking anybody. I just happen to walk into the water, in shallow water, and I get attacked by a shark or something like that. But, yeah, but it's insane how like the rest of this movie like plays out because it's very crowd heavy, like in the beginning of it, like with all involving the town and like all behind the shark attack and wanting to get to the bottom of it and capture this shark. And even though when they capture a shark, they're like everyone in the town's so stoked on it and everyone's like trying to take a picture with it. But it's like that's not the shark that killed that local little boy. And so like even though despite this whole town wanting to get involved in capturing and killing of this shark, like about halfway through after the final shark attack, during 4th of July weekend, I guess it was supposed to take place in, I mean, I know it's around like close to the 4th of July because at one point they say the date June 30th. And, so there's a point where after that last shark attack, they're like, all right, close the beach. Everyone get out of the beach. No one's allowed there until like this is resolved. And then the rest of the movie, I like didn't even realize just how it's just the three main characters, like Quint, I think his name's Martin, forgive me if I'm wrong on that, but the marine biologist, and then Chief Brody. And it's just the three of them out on a boat trying to get this shark for the remainder of the movie. And I didn't realize like how long it goes where it's just all about them. It doesn't like really cut anywhere else to like back in the town what's going on. It's like it just feels very isolated. And that's something I didn't notice until many rewatches later with this movie, that it's just like it goes from being like really claustrophobic too isolated in the second half. And like it's funny because they have like a lot of close calls with this shark. And I like at one point, the night they all decide to get drunk and they're all drinking and sharing. The marine biologist is sharing like shark bite stories and showing scars, and then Quinn's trying to like one up him. They're like just trying to one up each other on like certain scars the other person has. My daughter woke up, so I'm here with her now. But basically, just this movie, it just has so much tension behind it that it's such a classic movie that it relates to anyone nowadays, and anyone can get into it, even not huge movie fans. But this was just a great time to watch, and this is a perfect movie for around the 4th of July time, and I just have to say, like, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And, while doing this, Kelly and I, we ended up like, wearing shark sunglasses. I made like this whole date night out of it, like watching it. I was like, we made this shark themed like type drinks where it had like vanilla vodka and blue Hawaiian punch and Sprite like combined. And then we just put ice in it and it looked very, very Jaws-like. It was just basically like this, like blue, like liquid blue color, and like it was perfect. And then we had these tiny little like popcorn, little containers, and yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we've really enjoyed ourselves. So yeah, if you're needing of a date night idea for your significant other, be like, hey, want to watch Jaws on VHS? Maybe not on VHS in your case, but hey, want to watch Jaws? and then make these like shark themed drinks and buy shark gummies and then put popcorn in like these, you know, shark themed little tiny containers and, you know, just enjoy yourself and watch a very tension filled movie, but a classic movie. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna go back to feeding my daughter here, and because she's getting a little antsy. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe to the channel if you want more spooky type content. I think just because it's summer right now, I do want to kind of do like kind of summery type spooky stuff. But with Halloween basically right around the corner in the next few months, we're going to be covering a lot more Halloween type content. And yeah, I hope you all are looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. But my name is Brett, and I'll see you in a future video. Bye.